My wife mocked me at her office party. After I supported her career for 8 years, so I exposed her lies and reclaimed my own life. I'm a 34-year-old guy, just your average dude who's been grinding away at the same IT support job for the last 8 years. It's nothing special, but it pays the bills. I met my wife, Sarah, a 32-year-old woman, back in college when I was actually on track for something better. I had dreams of becoming an architect and had real talent for design, according to my professors. But life happens, you know. Sarah was this ambitious marketing major who always talked about climbing the corporate ladder. When we graduated, she landed an entry-level position at BlackRock Market, one of those trendy firms with exposed brick walls and kombucha on tap, while I took a temporary IT job to support us while she established her career. Somehow, that temporary job turned into 8 years of my life. I wasn't complaining back then. I thought we were a team. I was making decent money, but nothing compared to what she was pulling in once she started moving up, and she never let me forget it. Our apartment was filled with stuff she picked out, and my gaming PC was relegated to a tiny corner of the spare bedroom she called her home office, even though she barely used it. When I tried to hang some of my old college architectural sketches, she said they didn't match our aesthetic and replaced them with generic abstract art from some overpriced boutique downtown. My stomach was in knots. These corporate events always made me feel like an imposter. "Mike, are you seriously still getting ready?" she called from the bedroom, that little edge in her voice making me feel about 2 inches tall. "Almost done," I replied, smoothing down my new suit, the one I dropped $800 on just so she wouldn't give me that look she always did when I wore my old one. You know, that look that says, "My husband is such a project." She'd shoot it to her friends when she thought I didn't notice. "Remember to mention your project management certifications if anyone asks what you do, and please try to be more assertive than last time. You just stood in the corner like a statue." Each suggestion felt like a tiny paper cut, small but painful. "And don't bring up that Star Wars crap you're always talking about. Nobody cares about your theories on whatever those wizard people are called." "Jedi," I corrected automatically, immediately regretting it when I saw her roll her eyes. Whatever. I just nodded and promised to make her proud like always. But inside, something was already shifting. I was tired, so damn tired, of being the supporting character in the Sarah show. I recognized a few faces from previous functions, but mostly felt like a complete outsider, like I was wearing a costume in some play I never auditioned for. Sarah quickly spotted her colleagues and pulled me along, her hand gripping my elbow so tight I thought it might bruise. I smiled when I was supposed to, laughed at inside jokes I didn't understand, and kept her sparkling water glass filled. Then her boss, Ryan, approached Jordan Billings, the CEO, and I could literally feel Sarah's nails digging deeper into my arm. "Your quarterly numbers were exceptional," Jordan said to Sarah. She was beaming like someone had just handed her $1 million. "Thank you, sir. I believe women need to push boundaries in this industry. We can't let the old boys club hold us back." She threw in that feminist angle she always used around her bosses, even though at home she'd make me kill the spiders and take out the trash because those were man jobs. Then the conversation shifted to the upcoming company rock climbing retreat. Several executives were participating, including Sarah, my wife. A few chuckles rippled through the group, but I felt my face burning with humiliation. The CEO smiled politely, saying, "Nothing wrong with being cautious, different strengths and all that," but Sarah wasn't done. "It's beyond caution," she continued, completely oblivious to how uncomfortable I was feeling. "Remember when we had that mouse in the apartment last month?" She pantomimed, trembling, and everyone laughed harder. "He stood on the kitchen table screaming until I got home to deal with it." "Not exactly the rugged outdoorsman," she said, looking around at her colleagues. "I swear, sometimes it's like having another child instead of a husband. But he's so good with computers," she added, patting my arm condescendingly. "Actually," Ryan intervened, "I was talking with Mike earlier about his architectural hobby. Those 3D designs he showed me were impressive." I hadn't mentioned any architectural hobby. I didn't even know Ryan knew my name until that moment. But I recognized he was trying to rescue me, and I felt a weird connection with this guy I barely knew. Sarah looked confused. "Architecture? He doesn't—" "Perhaps you could send me some of those renderings," Ryan continued smoothly, cutting her off. "I've been thinking about redesigning my lake house. The conversation moved on to vacation properties, but the damage was done. I stood there, feeling like my soul had left my body. I was just an empty suit, nodding and smiling while inside I was screaming. I'd spent the last 8 years of my life supporting this woman, and she couldn't even grant me basic dignity in front of her colleagues. For what? So she could seem more impressive by comparison? I excused myself to get some air, walking out to the big balcony where the cool night breeze did absolutely nothing to stop the burning humiliation inside me. I stood there, staring at the city lights below, suddenly seeing everything clearly. The woman I married had just used me as the punchline to boost her own image at work, and it wasn't even the first time. Years of small comments and subtle put-downs suddenly crystallized into this painful pattern I'd been ignoring. I wasn't just the butt of tonight's jokes. I was the designated loser in the narrative she'd constructed about our relationship. I accepted with a nod, grateful for both the drink and the lack of pity in his expression. "Thank you, and thanks for the imaginary architectural hobby." He leaned against the railing beside me. My ex-wife did the same thing at every company event, made me the punchline to all her stories. Dave can't cook to save his life. Dave got lost driving to his mother's house. Dave couldn't figure out how to use the washing machine. He took a sip of his water. I didn't know how to respond, so I just nodded. "For what it's worth," he continued, "I've been in this business 20 years. The people who last aren't the ones who build themselves up by tearing others down. That strategy always backfires, eventually." He swirled his water. "Between us, Sarah's promotion isn't as solid as she thinks. Jordan's been asking questions about that Miller account." Ryan shook his head. "Just that the numbers don't quite add up. Nothing I can discuss in detail." He trailed off, then changed the subject. "So did you really study architecture?" Ryan nodded thoughtfully. "It's funny how we put our dreams on hold thinking it's temporary, and then wake up one day to realize years have passed. Is everything okay? Jordan's wife was asking about you, actually." I finally found my voice. "I think I'm going to head home." Her smile vanished. "What? You can't leave now? We've only been here 2 hours. Stop being so sensitive. The one time I need you to be supportive, you're running away because your feelings got hurt. I swear men are so fragile sometimes." Something shifted inside me then, a quiet certainty replacing the confusion and hurt. I straightened my shoulders and looked directly at Sarah. "I've attended every function, remembered every colleague's name, and never once complained about being left alone at holidays when you had to work. I put my own dreams on hold for 8 years while you built your career." I took a breath. "But tonight, you didn't ask for my support. You used me as a prop to make yourself look better. Because from where I'm standing, it felt like you were telling everyone that your biggest accomplishment was succeeding despite being married to such a pathetic loser." Her gaze faltered, dropping to the floor, and in that moment I saw something I hadn't been looking for. Insecurity disguised as confidence, fear masked as ambition. As I turned to leave, Ryan extended his hand. "Good meeting you properly, Mike. Hope you feel better soon." I shook his hand, surprised by the firm grip and the business card he smoothly passed to me. "Call me if you'd like to grab coffee sometime," he said. "I mean it about those designs." I shed my suit, the expensive costume I'd worn to fit into her world, and stood in the shower until the hot water ran cold, letting it wash away the evening's humiliation. Sleep didn't come easy. I lay awake replaying years of subtle slights. How she'd interrupt me when I talked about things I was interested in. How she'd roll her eyes when I suggested vacation ideas. The constant little improvements she wanted to make to my appearance, my speech, my hobbies. "Maybe now you can focus on something productive." Or when I'd excitedly shown her a sketch I'd drawn of our dream house, and she'd replied, "It's cute that you still think about that stuff." A text message at 6 a.m. told me she'd stayed at Jen's place because she didn't want to continue the argument while emotional. Translation: she was avoiding the consequences of her actions. I called in sick to work, something I rarely did, and spent the day in this weird limbo between anger and possibility. I dug out my old architectural sketches from college, the ones Sarah had deemed not matching our aesthetic, and spread them across the dining table. They weren't half bad, especially the urban renewal project that had won me departmental recognition. I decided to take him up on that coffee offer if it still stood. His response came quickly. "Good to hear from you. 3 p.m. at Steel Bean downtown." The coffee shop was upscale but not pretentious. Ryan was already seated in a corner booth when I arrived, dressed casually in jeans and a button-down shirt. "Though I should probably confess that I've never shown you any architectural designs," he laughed. "I figured as much. But I wasn't entirely making it up. Sarah once mentioned that Ryan studied architecture in college, saying it was cute that I thought I could make it in that field. That stung. I had never told her it was cute when she failed at her first 2 marketing jobs. Yeah, well, it was more than cute to me, I said, pulling out my phone to show him some photos of my old college projects. Before I left the apartment, I had been on track for internships at some decent firms, but then life happened. Ryan scrolled through the images, his eyebrows raising slightly. These are actually good, really good. The spatial awareness, the integration with the surrounding environment. You had a genuine talent. The conversation flowed with surprising ease. He wasn't just being polite or feeling sorry for me. He was genuinely interested in who I was. As we talked, I found myself sharing things I had kept buried: my abandoned passion for architectural design, the small business plan I had shelved when Sarah's career took priority, and my growing sense of having lost myself in the shadow of her ambition. "So all this time, you've just been putting your dreams aside while supporting hers?" Ryan asked. I admitted, "Well, I guess I thought that's what marriage was. Compromise, sacrifice. I figured my turn would come eventually." "And compromise should go both ways," Ryan pointed out. "When was the last time she sacrificed something for your dreams?" I couldn't answer that, because the truth was, she never had. I finally questioned. After a second coffee, he replied, "Our corporate loyalty would suggest you should be taking her side." He paused, tapping his fingers thoughtfully on the table. "Our corporate loyalty is overrated. Human decency isn't. What I saw last night wasn't someone building up a team. It was someone stepping on another person to appear taller." He continued, Plus, I recognize something in you that reminds me of myself 15 years ago. Sometimes people need a nudge to remember who they are. I don't have any professional qualifications. My design experience is theoretical at best," he replied. "Sometimes theoretical is exactly what we need. No pressure, just take a look and give me your honest thoughts." He slid a thumb drive across the table. "Use a new email address to send feedback. This is under the radar. I don't need Sarah knowing I'm consulting with her husband." That evening, after Sarah returned with a carefully rehearsed apology that included phrases like non-work stress and "non didn't mean to embarrass you," but never actually acknowledged what she'd done, I sat down at my long-neglected desk and plugged in the drive. The designs were ambitious, a blend of modern and historical elements that would transform a neglected corner of downtown. I lost myself for hours examining renderings, making notes, and sketching alternatives. For the first time in years, I felt my mind fully engaged, neurons firing with creative energy that had long been dormant. She moved closer, trying to see the screen. "Work project? Since when does its support need architectural renderings?" Closing the laptop, I felt a strange new boundary forming between us. "It's personal," I replied. She couldn't even conceive of me having independent interests or goals. "I'm exploring some possibilities," I said vaguely, enjoying for once being the one with information she wanted. She hovered for another minute, clearly expecting me to elaborate, but I stayed silent. Finally, she retreated, and I realized something had fundamentally shifted. The apartment felt different, not because she had returned, but because I was no longer the same person who had left for the party 2 nights ago. The two of us didn't seem unbridgeable. 2 weeks passed in a strange new domestic rhythm. Sarah walked on eggshells around me, overcompensating with forced cheerfulness and sudden interest in my day. I remained polite but distant, spending evenings working on the development project rather than watching mindless television beside her. The email I had sent to Ryan led to a flurry of exchanges, my suggestions sparking genuine interest from the design team. I stared at the message, equal parts thrilled and terrified. This was no longer just a therapeutic distraction. It was becoming real. "I'm not qualified for an actual meeting," I replied. His response came immediately. "Neither were half the successful people I know when they started. 1 p.m. at the office. Business casual. I'll meet you in the lobby." "Oh, with whom?" She tried to sound merely curious, but I caught the sharp edge of suspicion. "A potential client," I answered, not quite lying but not elaborating. "I'm exploring some consulting opportunities in architectural design," I added. Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. "Since when are you interested in architecture? And what kind of consulting? You don't have certifications." "I've always been interested in architecture," I said quietly. "We talked about it when we first met. I showed you my sketches." "That was a hobby," she dismissed. "You can't just suddenly decide to call yourself a consultant." "Actually, you can," I replied, "especially when people value your input." I closed my laptop and stood up. I need to prepare for tomorrow. I could feel her staring at my back as I walked away, trying to process this new version of her husband, one who had interests and ambitions beyond supporting her career. She demanded, no longer hiding her suspicion. A development team interested in my design perspective, I replied, grabbing my portfolio, the one I'd spent all night putting together, complete with my old college work and new ideas for the downtown project. This doesn't make any sense, she insisted. You work in IT. You've always worked in IT. But that was never my passion. You knew that. As I headed for the door, she called after me. Is this about the party? Are you trying to punish me? I paused, my hand on the doorknob. Not everything is about you, Sarah. This is about me reclaiming something I lost. What did I think I was doing? Playing at being a professional in a world I didn't belong in. Right on time, Ryan appeared, greeting me with a firm handshake. Ready to impress some people? The meeting room contained 5 people, all dressed in that understated, expensive way that signaled serious success. Walk us through your thinking, a gray-haired woman prompted, gesturing to the renderings projected on the wall. I took a deep breath and began explaining the issues I'd noticed with the original design, the shadowing problems at certain times of day, the wind tunnel effect the building orientation would create, and the missed opportunity for green space that would increase property values and tenant satisfaction. As I spoke, my voice grew steadier. I fielded questions, sketched alternatives on the digital whiteboard, and found myself in a spirited debate about the merits of various materials. For 90 minutes, I forgot to be intimidated. I forgot I wasn't formally qualified. I just lost myself in the pure pleasure of creative problem-solving. When the meeting concluded, the gray-haired woman, who turned out to be the firm's senior partner, approached me directly. Your perspective is refreshing, she said. Most consultants tell us what we want to hear. You told us what we needed to know. She handed me her card. We have another project breaking ground in 3 months. Would you be interested in a more formal arrangement? I felt dizzy with possibility. I would need to think about it, of course, but don't think too long, she smiled knowingly. Talent doesn't need credentials to be valuable. Productive, I replied cautiously. Don't play dumb, Mike. You deliberately kept this from me. Do you have any idea how this makes me look? Like I can't keep my own husband in line? That your husband might have talent and value outside of being your supportive spouse? That's not fair. I was trying to impress Jordan. I went too far. What more do you want? She reached for my hand, but I stepped back, needing physical distance to maintain emotional clarity. What exactly are you doing with this project? She asked, her voice smaller now. Apparently, talent and insight matter more than credentials to some people. Not everything is about you, I said quietly. This is about me rebuilding something I lost. It has nothing to do with revenge. Not what you needed from me or how I could support you, just who I am and what I want. But something bigger was brewing. I could feel it in the way she'd furiously text during dinner or take hushed phone calls in the bathroom. She's filed a formal complaint with HR claiming I've engaged in inappropriate professional relationships by hiring her spouse without disclosure. That's ridiculous, I said, feeling betrayed all over again. She knows that's not true. Jordan was already planning to audit her work next month, and now she's trying to discredit you before that happens. I created a new account like you suggested. She was the one who never talked about work at home, except to brag. I knew nothing about this project until you showed it to me. I believe you, but we need to prove it. It's my apartment too, I said firmly. And if she's trying to destroy my one chance at rebuilding my career just to protect her lies, I think I have a right to defend myself. It was all there. Her deliberate manipulation of the Miller account data. Her strategy to keep Mike focused on supporting my career by discouraging his architectural hobby. And most damning of all, entries from the past week plotting to discredit Ryan before he could expose her falsehoods. I took photos of the relevant pages, my hands shaking with anger and betrayal. This wasn't just about the party anymore. This was about years of calculated suppression of my dreams to keep me as her supportive sidekick, she screamed as soon as she saw me. You went through my private journal. You gave my personal writings to Ryan. Do you have any idea what you've done? I laughed bitterly. You mean the reputation you built by lying about your results and stepping on others? That reputation, I corrected her. It was only ever important to you. You were willing to destroy my one chance at reclaiming my passion to protect your lies. Even now, you're only offering to support me because you need something. That's not how partnerships work. I've already packed my essentials. I'm staying with a friend until I find my own place. That's just self-preservation. Sneaking around behind my back, going through my private things? You're nothing without me, nothing. Who do you think paid for most of this apartment? Who kept us afloat when your pathetic IT job had layoffs 3 years ago? Mike, please, I love you, she called after me, her voice suddenly small again. The downtown project is nearly complete, with my courtyard design becoming one of the development's signature features. I've been hired as a full consultant on 2 additional projects, and I'm taking night classes to finally complete my architecture degree. She tried to turn our mutual friends against me with stories about how I had abandoned her during a minor work issue. She even showed up at my new apartment, alternating between tears and threats. The strangest part came 3 months after our separation. When the company's investigation was complete, Sarah was fired for data manipulation. On her way out, she apparently had a complete meltdown in the lobby, according to Ryan, who witnessed the whole thing. She screamed that everyone would be sorry when she revealed the truth about the conspiracy against her. 2 days later, I received a desperate email from her. Mike, I need your help. They've destroyed my reputation in the industry. No one will hire me. I know I made mistakes, but I didn't deserve this. You know how hard I worked. Please, if you talk to Ryan, tell him I've learned my lesson. Tell them I deserve a second chance. I have nothing without this career. Her LinkedIn now lists her as a marketing consultant, which usually means unemployed. Meanwhile, the senior partner at Ryan's firm has offered to sponsor me for an accelerated architecture program that would complete my credentials within a year. But then I remember all those years of subtle put-downs, the humiliations at parties, and her willingness to destroy my opportunities just to save herself. The guilt fades pretty quickly after that. The greatest revenge wasn't exposing her lies or watching her career implode. It was reclaiming my own potential, the part of myself I'd almost forgotten existed. No matter what happens in my new career, I'll never again make myself small to make someone else feel big. Sometimes the hard part isn't fighting against others' perceptions of you. It's fighting against the limited version of yourself you've come to accept.